All right.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well this evening. This is Brian here from Horizon Support and Training, and I'm welcoming all of you to our very special presentation this evening about Report Designer. Now, before we get started, I want to point out the GoToWebinar control panel, which is located on the right-hand side of your screen. Within the control panel will be a section for audio, and if you're having difficulty hearing us through your speakers, consider switching to phone call and using the toll-free number to dial in and listen. There's also a question section, and you're encouraged to type any questions you have for us throughout the session. All questions will be stored and answered during the Q&A period. Now, I know there's been a lot of buzz and fanfare surrounding Report Designer, and over the next 30 minutes, we are going to shed light and provide insight into how it's going to work for you. To do this, though, I need some major support. And with me tonight, I have none other than Alan Carson, owner and president of Horizon and Carson Dunlop, as well as our in-house expert for all things Report Designer, Ariel. So without further ado, Alan, if you'd be so kind as to take it away and let us know why you decided to create Report Designer.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brian, and welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here. This is definitely a pretty exciting time for us. Report Designer has been a project that's been almost a year in the making, and we have got lots of time and energy devoted to it. So the goal tonight is to give you a quick overview. This is not going to be a how-to presentation. It's going to be kind of an introduction, high-level discussion. I'm going to open with a few comments and then hand it over to Ariel, who knows a whole lot more about it than I do. So let's go ahead and get started. So in a nutshell, Report Designer introduces huge flexibility for report writing. It changes the game in every possible way. But let me back up to the beginning and say that if you love the existing PDF reports that Horizon has always given you, that's great. You don't need to do a thing. Nothing changes. What is new is if you want to move into a different area, the entire power of Microsoft Word opens up. So the whole thing becomes a very different kind of world. And I'm going to break it up into two distinct thoughts. And the first one is, if you want to move to Word, we've built some templates for you that you can use out of the box, or you can create a custom version, either changing our templates a little bit or coming up with something brand new. And when I say templates, I mean you can have pages look like you want, you can have watermarks on them, you can have borders, headers, footers, you can have pages different colors. You can do pretty much anything Microsoft Word feels is possible. Then the second level is that you can also edit things on the fly on a report by report basis, so that we give you the templates to work with, and you've never had the ability before in Horizon to go in and add line breaks or change page breaks or move images around or change the size of images. Now you're going to be able to do that. So you get the template possibilities, and then you get the on-the-fly editing possibilities. The other thing that we've added is the ability to create those mandatory state forms. And we've got a few built for you already, and we can build you what you need. So we've got a couple of pest control WDO forms ready. We've got wind mitigation, 4-point and roof condition for Florida folks. So you always had to, up until now, create those reports outside of Horizon and attach them to the back of the report as an appendix. Now you're going to be able to do your data input right in Horizon and have those appear as part of the report. Let me also say that this has been a huge project, and it is to some extent still a work in progress. And Ariel will touch on things like the Texas report and commercial we're still working on. And as always, I'm going to ask for your patience in advance. And thank you for your input and your contributions. You folks have always been great in giving us the feedback we need to help make life better for you. Okay, let me just reiterate this before I hand things over to Ariel. Again, if you don't want to change anything, PDF reports stay the same, no change in functionality whatsoever. You probably, if you're going to move to the Word template world, you probably want to move to Windows 10. If you're using an older version of Windows, it works, but best practice is to move to 10. That's going to be great. And some of you have already discovered that Internet Explorer is not going to work very well for you. Internet Explorer hasn't been supported by Microsoft for over 3 years now. And this being 2019 and all, you probably want to be in Chrome or Firefox or Edge or something like that. So moving forward, you're going to have to stay up to date with the current technology. And that's just a couple of examples. Okay, well, enough of all the nuts and bolts. Let me pass it over to Ariel and let him give you a little bit of a running demo.
All right, thanks for the intro, Brian and Alan. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Ariel, and I'm the account manager and tech support for Horizon. Thanks to everybody for taking your time to attend here tonight. Hopefully everyone's staying warm. Okay, so in this webinar, I'll be talking about our exciting new product called Report Designer. Let's jump right in. Okay, so what is Report Designer? Report Designer is a completely optional step to report editing. It allows fine-tuning of the report via a word processor, and as Alan mentioned, Microsoft Word is highly recommended. It also needs Windows 10 if you're going to be using our PDF Converter app. And if you want to stick with a current PDF, you can. So before we move on further, I just wanted to touch on a few key points. This is an alternative to the classic style that you're used to. I guess the main thing is it doesn't use the tab navigation from the PDF. It uses a table of contents. So if you're familiar with Word or if you've used it before, you'd be familiar with this feature. It also uses something called base templates, which are created in Microsoft Word. We have 3 starter designs plus 5 state forms ready to go. And also Trek REI 7.5 is still in production, and we're going to release more info on that soon. And we'll also be doing a quick demo near the end of the webinar, and this session is going to be recorded, so you can just sit back and watch. Okay, so why did we make Report Designer? We developed Report Designer to give inspectors unparalleled flexibility in the report PDF design. I've been with Horizon for around 5 years now, and one of the most frequently asked questions is, can I add line breaks to my report to keep the content closer together? Another one is, can I change the font color and size in the PDF? And can I use other diagrams? With Report Designer, the answer is yes. You can also use it to fill out mandated forms with Horizon, then output them to a specific state format. And what can you do with it? There's actually tons of stuff. So in this list, we're only beginning to scratch the surface. As I just mentioned, you can add line breaks, change the font color and weight. You can change the header, the footer, borders, and like the page number style. It's also possible to resize illustrations and insert your own at full size. You can even do smaller illustrations if you want using something called tags. So if you're familiar with Horizon Marketer, you'd be familiar with that concept. You can also do things like add page watermarks and social media buttons. You can add other graphics to report design, like if you're a big firm, you can put a picture of the city skyline near the front of your report. Or you can do things like add a signature on your cover letter. And as mentioned, we're working on Trek REI 7.5 and also on a commercial format. Another important thing you'd be able to do with this is resort the report systems, which historically you haven't been able to do with the classic PDF, but with this one you can. Another common request I get is, can I put these site conditions at the front of the report? So with the Report Designer, again, the answer is yes. Okay, so here are some report designs that we've already built. So here's my modern green design. The text on the title page was done in Microsoft Word where it says inspection report. And again, it uses tags here to render the document content. So if you've used Horizon Marketer before, you'd be familiar with that. We do also have other variations of the background as well. So if you don't like green, we have other colors like red or blue on the back burner, so you can switch between those as well, and we can definitely help you do that. This is our mustard yellow design. Another request I've had before is, can I make the title page photo larger? With Report Designer, the answer is a resounding yes. The text might be small on my screen here, but as you can see, I've set a centered header with the report details and also a table of contents page. Here's our ice blue design. Also might look like something Tom Brady might use if he was a home inspector after he retires. Those grids on the title page can be easily customized to match your company color. So where you see all those squares and rectangles, you can change that to whatever color you want. You can also import Photoshop files on top and replace it as your title page. There's also, to the right of that, there's a sample of a contract that was dynamically pulled in from the work order. And you can also do things like remove elements, like if you don't want the contract or invoice, you can easily remove that from a base template. We've also redesigned the reference library, which is the last screenshot on this screen. So it looks a little bit more modern. You can change up the images if you want. You don't have to stick with a standard one that everybody uses currently. Okay, so this is very important before I move on. If you use any ancillaries such as site info or pool and spa, septic is another popular one, please contact us so that we can add them to your base template if you're using Report Designer. Otherwise, they won't actually show up on your report since they're not declared in there. Okay, so as of launch, again, we do have some state-specific forms available. We have, for Florida, we have a 4-point citizens form, a wind mitigation form, and a roof condition form. We also have the WDO NPMA 33 and the Trek version of the WDO built into Horizon, so you can collect it inside of Horizon and then output it to the state format. Okay, so now we'll go through a quick rundown of how it works. First, you write your report as usual using either Horizon Web, mobile, or laptop. Once everything's back on the cloud at discoverhorizon.com, you would select the template on the report publishing page. So you can switch it from the classic to your base template. So I'll definitely go over that in a quick demo. So after that, you generate your report. And if you're using a Word template, you would then download it to your computer, as you can see by step 2 indicated in my screenshot. Once you're done making your cosmetic edits, you would then go back to upload the edited report. And then under step 4, you would convert it back to a PDF for final publishing.
So Ariel, the way I think about that is you're really adding a feature where you can work in Horizon up until you want to publish your report, and then you can take your report and sort of take it off the production line and put it on your computer in Word, massage it and get it the way you want it, and then upload it and put it back into the production line and publish it and send it out to your clients just the way you've always done it. Do I have that right?
Yes, definitely. So the report themes, they are completely optional to use. Again, if you like the classic PDF and your clients and agents are happy with it, you can definitely stick with that format. This is a completely new layer, and I think it'll satisfy the needs of a lot of inspectors that wanted to always customize the reports further. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a great tool.
Perfect.
All right, thanks, Alan. So now I'm going to go through a demo of the base template use. We're going to go over the setup, but we'll actually save that for some pre-recorded stuff that we'll release on our YouTube channel. But right now, I'll just go in and jump into a quick demo here. Sorry, everyone, I just need a little bit of time to actually set this up. Okay, so now I've brought up my Horizon dashboard. So in the Horizon profile,
you just got to move it over the screen, my good friend.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that, Brian. Thanks for the reminder. Okay, so now you should be all able to see my Horizon dashboard there. And so base template setup is actually controlled in the profile section. So under profile, under section 3, which is report config, I have my base templates here. So it says report designer config, then to the far right, you'd click on settings. And as you can see here, I do have a couple of templates already set up. There's the state mandated format ones up here. And then I also have my Ice Blue theme. So, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'll use the one that I've already applied and created. But, again, after this webinar, it's going to be recorded, and we'll also be producing some tutorials. And you'll also be able to book sessions with me starting later next week. So that is something to keep in mind. So let's go to the home screen here, and I have a report already set up that I'm going to edit. So to do that, I'm just going to click on the report. And we always do recommend to preview your report. Now, another thing I would recommend is to preview in the classic PDF to just make sure your content and photos and illustrations are the way you want them prior to pulling it off of that production line. Now, the reason we recommend that is because Report Designer was primarily meant for cosmetic edits, even though you do have the ability to insert anything inline as part of that Word doc. We do recommend that as in the Word doc, if you it won't actually translate back into the Horizon input. So that is completely by design, and that is intentional. So I'm actually just going to close this here. So assuming that you're done all your previews and it looks good, you go to the report publishing page. And so under the report design, I've switched it to the Ice Blue template over from the classic PDF, which is the default. So I'm just going to click Ice Blue here again. And I'm also going to click Generate. Okay, so this is the new layer to report publishing. So now what I can do here is I can click Download to pull it off of that production line. So I'm just going to click Download. And as you can see here, I have my report template, so I'm just going to open it. And it's launching Office 365 here. And I've also just made that full screen. And so before you can get started editing, you would click on Enable Editing. And to the far right here, these are inline comments in Microsoft Word. They won't actually show up when you publish your report. So that is important to note. So please try not to be confused with this panel here to the right where it has that little line going up across the screen. These are just for your reference so that you know that you can make changes to your document. So as you can see here, I have my grid style. It's inserted the cover photo that was set in my report. It also has the report details. And so I'll just scroll down here, and it has my logo as well. It also has my cover letter, which is pretty standard to a report. And then it comes into the table of contents, which is a feature inherent to Microsoft Word. So as you can see here, it's pretty abstract. It just says number 1 on all of them, but we're going to update the table after we're done editing the document. It's going to reflect the correct page numbers. Okay, as you can see here, it has my invoice. There is also something called the paid in full tag, which for this demo, it's not in there. However, that is available to put in there so you can see whether it was marked as paid in full, or the client would be able to see that. It's also inserted my inspection contract based on what was set up in that work order. So it's pulled all that content in. Okay, now I'm going to start getting to the summary page, which most of you should be familiar with. And so in this summary, I have one heating recommendation just because this is the purpose of a quick demo. So as an example, you can take all this text and easily highlight it red. And so that's going to be pretty powerful for some inspectors. It's a request I've had, more than a couple times over the years. So I think it's definitely something that people will use. And again, we are here to help you set up these base templates and use them in your day-to-day. So you can even flip back and forth between the classic and this style. For example, if you want to use this to satisfy certain picky agents, you can definitely use it to your advantage there because it is alternate, and it also allows you to control the line breaks, which is one of the biggest requests from agents. So after the summary, I'm just going to get into the roofing section. So in this base template, I set it up so that descriptions are first. Some of you may have it flipped the other way around or have sorted it differently, which is fine. And then I have the limitations.
Ariel, I notice we've got red headings and we've got blue titles and so on. If I don't like red and blue, if my colors are orange and black, can I change those colors?
Oh yes, definitely. That definitely plays into the power of Microsoft Word. It's super easy to customize this stuff, and we are here for assistance. But say if I didn't like this, in my base template is where I would actually change it so that it affects all report documents. It's a lot harder to try and style it inside of each individual document, so we recommend that you change it in the source template so you can apply it to everything.
Right, so you do it once at the beginning and you're set up and they don't have to fuss with it. Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. You wouldn't do this on the fly on a report by report basis other than to highlight the issues that you wanted to in red like you did on the previous page.
That's exactly right, Alan. So thanks for clarifying that or bringing that to my attention. Also, one thing you notice, it seems like there's a big page gap here. It is technically possible with this to remove a filter so that the limitations would automatically appear after the descriptions. So it doesn't have to be limited to that. So it'll help to compress the content and make your report shorter if you so choose. So as an example here, under recommendations, I have sloped roof flashings and it says the kickout flashing is missing. I have an illustration here, followed by a report comment and then a photo here. So what if I wanted to keep this content closer together to make it more coherent? We do also have a illustrations tag for something smaller, but in this case, I'm just going to go through a quick and easy way to do it. You can click on an illustration and just, I'm going to hold down my shift key here, drag the illustration just a bit, and bam, it's added the content or the photo rather onto the same page so that you can easily tell that the leak is in relation to the pipe stack flashing. And that is something that users have requested over the years, is now completely possible with Report Designer.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Quick and easy to bring everything together. Cool.
Right. Okay, and there's also a lone comment here, but again, if you change the filters in the tags, which will help you do, it would be even possible to get this closer up or move it down and then get rid of the blank page. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And now I'm just getting to my exterior section here. The hyperlinks, once you turn it into a PDF, are still clickable. So that is something that people might ask. So that is definitely something that will happen. Okay, I'm just quickly scrolling through my document here, and I'll see if I can find one other good example. So another one here is roof drainage downspouts. The illustration is down here, and I want to keep it together. So what I can actually do is I can just click. This is the way most of you will do it. Just click enter a couple times to easily drop it down, and it's added the content and kept it together so that the illustration and the comment is on the same page. And even again, you could easily force that down. But for the purpose of this demo, I'll just quickly scroll to the end here. And as you can see, there's the reference library. So there's different styles for this. You can also add appendix documents after the reference library pretty easily. So you're not limited to this being the last page of your report. Also would be, if you use like state specific forms often, you can even integrate it onto the same base template so you can keep things together consistently. And so you can even have different variations of your base template. So you can have one with like a standard report plus say a 4-point if you're in Florida, or also a 4-point in a Winman.
So I'm not restricted to one base template. I can have different versions. That's so cool.
Yes, definitely. So it's, again, super powerful, and I think it's something that will satisfy needs for a lot of inspectors here.
Now, did we talk earlier? If I like to put my summary at the end, and quite frankly, I think that's silly, but I see a lot of inspectors put their executive summary at the end of the report. If you chose to do that, you could do that with these base templates?
Yes, definitely, you can do that. I'll actually go into a very quick demo because I understand the concept is pretty abstract, but let me see if I can pull it up here. So in the Horizon profile where I set up my base templates, I'm just going to download the one that I was demoing here so you can take a quick look at it, or for our audience as well. so you can understand just the immense power of it. So I'm just going to open this here. And so as you can see, there's like some abstract stuff like report tags. Very similar to the Horizon Marketer concept where it renders the data once you run it through the engine. So if I get into the main body here, this is my summary filtering. So I can just filter it to summary items only, and then put it at the back, or add the regular report data first, which is this stuff here, put it in front of the summary items, and then save that as a base template. So it is completely optional.
Yeah, there is tons of power in this little guy.
Right. Okay, great. So I'm just going to actually save this document and show you how it fits into the report publishing process. So I'm just going to click Save here. Or sorry, rather I should click Save As. And so for ease of use, I'm just going to save it to my desktop. So put it right here.
So we've been working off the production line. Now we're going to go back into production.
Correct, yes. We're going to upload it back to Horizon and reconvert it from a Word document into a PDF.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm just going to close this here. And I'm going to go back to the home screen, and we're going to work with my report demo. So I'm going to click on Report Publishing, and my Ice Blue template is selected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Upload Edited Report. And I'm going to go to my desktop because that's where I saved it. Ideally, you would set up a folder for these on your computer so you can easily locate them and not have to go through all this stuff. But I'm just going to click on it here and click Open. And so it's uploaded my edited report fairly quickly. And also what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use our PDF, or proprietary PDF editor tool. It's a conversion tool. So I'm just going to click on Convert to PDF. And it's going to say Open Horizon DocX to PDF Converter. You can always set it to open these types of links. I won't do that in this scenario, but I'm just going to click Open. And so as you can see here, it's running through the conversion process using our engine. Okay, so now it's done. It's also automatically launched a report preview, so you can take another look at it as a flattened PDF. So as you can see here, also I didn't update the table of contents page, but that's okay. We can do it in another demo later. And also our documentation will include that, because there was one step where I was supposed to click update page numbers, but my apologies, everyone. I just unintentionally skipped over that, so sorry about that. But yeah, as you can see here, it's the report content is nice and clean. It's still a PDF. Again, all this stuff can be customized. You can customize the header, the footer. You can put in certain report data like the address. If you don't want it here, say you want it over on the right, you can do that. You can use different date formats. I'm just trying to scroll through a little bit quicker here in the PDF. And again, the summary item is in there. That content is red. So yeah, it's looking pretty good to me.
Absolutely.
All right, so now that I'm done, I'm just going to close this automatic preview again. That just happened automatically. And I'm going to close the conversion utility here. And I'm just going to refresh the screen as well. Okay, so now it's contained my PDF. And so all I have to do now is click Publish. So you'll note I did have to refresh the screen there, likely because it was a bit of a longer report. So if you do see it not change over immediately there, and it ran through the PDF converter, all you have to do is hit refresh at the top of your browser. It's super easy to do. Okay, so all I have to do at this point is click to select my recipient. It's just a demo, so it's myself. And after that, you just click send as usual.
That looks pretty familiar.
All right, and it says the email sent.
Very good.
Okay, everyone. So that concludes the demo. And so at this point, it's going to be open to some Q&A. And so our lead Brian there, or who set up the panel, is going to help to moderate the questions. And if anyone has to leave, we completely understand. We did say we'd go till 7:30, so it's right on the dot. So we have, we have probably up to half an hour to answer any questions. After that, there will be a hard stop. However, if there's any questions that we missed, we'll respond back to those people via email. I think that would be the best approach.
That makes good sense, Ariel. That's pretty incredible timing. I think that was to the second. You were at
Right.
7:30. Good stuff. So, Brian, I'm pretty sure nobody would have any questions since we covered absolutely everything. Is that the case?
We've got a couple here from some people, some very interested parties. Without getting too far into this, I got a question. I think more so for yourself on the development side, Ellen. Do you anticipate having additional forms being created similar to like WET for wood-burning fireplaces, or maybe Tarion, things of that nature? Are they perhaps in the plan for development?
Yeah, those have all been topics of discussion. And as I said at the outside, we're kind of dealing with a work in progress here. Part of what's going to drive us is what most folks are looking for. So the WET and the Tarion are great starter points for a discussion. As I said, we're still working on a couple of other things, the Texas report, commercial version. We're pretty excited about where the commercial's going. But absolutely, and we're going to rely on you folks to guide us a little bit and provide the feedback of what you're looking for.
Fantastic. I appreciate the answer, Alan. So I guess in short, folks, give us your feedback on new forms that you would like created. We'll evaluate that and let you know if it's going to be feasible. We are definitely earmarking plenty for the future with this report designer feature. Now, another question came through, and Ariel, I'm wondering if you could answer this from one of our listeners here. His name's Michael. He asked a question about how does he need to customize the report each time, or once he's set up the template, can he just basically select that and have it apply to his report? Like he doesn't need to tweak and make, changes to, say, the font choice as we were talking about. Once he's set it, can he forget it, or does he have to make changes every single time?
If you make the change, that's a great question. Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Brian. Yes, you make the change to your base template. That way you don't have to style things individually each time. In terms of like the consistent stuff. So things like the header, the footer, if you want your title name to be the same thing, like you want roofing to always be a orange color, for example, or the border surrounding it. You change that in your base template. That way you don't have to modify it every single time. You just do it once and you set it and forget it.
Excellent.
So
Thank you for that.
Your question.
Another question for yourself, Ariel, and this is also perhaps both you and Alan, by a gentleman by the name of Jim. He's wondering about the table of contents, and can it be hyperlinked like the old tabs? So, obviously classic style, we've got tabs across the top, one for each system. Can the table of contents in this new style be linked, and when you click on roofing, it takes you to roofing?
We can definitely explore that possibility. There's lots of different ways to do it. The last thing we checked was with the table of contents on the report pages, it's possible to add a link back to the table of contents. So it's not quite the same thing as the report tabs, however, it's very similar. So essentially say you're on page 40 of 70, and then you want to jump around the report, you can easily click back to top. It'll take you to the table of contents. It's a lot easier to jump around. It is technically possible to try and build report tabs. It just makes the setting up the base template significantly more complex, but it is possible.
I think I'm going to throw in a different thought here. I think the question may have been just to use the table of contents and be able to click on anything in the existing Word table of contents to get to that page. Yes. And the answer is absolutely yes. So if you're going through the table of contents and you want to go to the structure section, you can just click on structure and get there. So yeah, it is hyperlinks in the table of contents for sure.
Yep, I actually just wanted to quickly pull it up here. So when you click on say structure, immediately takes you to the structure section of the document.
There we go.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Brian, I'm going to jump in. I did have another question come in, and somebody said, is there going to be a separate price for report designer? Is that incremental to Horizon? Does that get added on? And the answer is, like so many Horizon things, absolutely not. This is an additional feature. There's no additional cost. And we may, depending on customization requests, ask you to help out with the cost of doing that. But basically, everything that is being put forward and discussed tonight is absolutely included with Horizon.
Free is always better than cost, that's for sure. Ariel, one for you. One of our listeners here, his name's Mel, had asked a question about how will this potentially affect Horizon Mobile? Will it impact it whatsoever? Does it have any influence on what you do for the data collection side of things? Or is it simply isolated to the publishing, the output?
Well, yeah, so it's going to be possible to use Horizon Mobile in conjunction with these. So you won't be previewing, these types of base templates. That will most likely retain just the classic preview. But in terms of the data collection on Horizon Mobile, say the NPMA 33 form, you can collect that data inside of Horizon Mobile. Once you sync it back to the cloud, at that stage is where you would use these base templates. So still pretty powerful, but yeah, I mean, you'll be able to collect this data from multiple sources or just directly online and then translate it into these state mandated forms.
Yeah, let me jump in there as well. And so I always think of Horizon Mobile as primarily your field data collection tool, and that's going to work the same way it always has. And I was just reminded when Ariel was talking about base templates, although this thing has only been out a week, we've already had one of our users create a very interesting base template of his own without a whole lot of help or input from us. And he's added an interesting watermark to every page of his report. And we're starting to find people are already playing with this thing like crazy and coming up with ideas that we haven't thought of. So really, the message here is that the only limitation is your imagination, and Word is pretty remarkable in what it can do. So we're at the beginning of a whole lot of fun with this. I think it's going to change the game in a big way.
Thanks for that. Mark has a question about the potential for automated coloring or bolding. So let's say we're talking about the severity of a condition. You'd like to color code it. Maybe, cupping is red and some missed caulking is green, just as an example, right? So due to severity of an issue or perhaps the nature of it, roofing or exterior related, could it somehow be color coded or boldened? And would the system maybe in the future be intelligent enough to identify and auto-apply that with this report designer feature?
No, that's definitely a great question. It may be possible. It is something that we'd have to explore further. Please do keep in mind this is the first iteration of the tool. So, as you release upgrades and collect feature requests for this, that's definitely a great idea, and I can see a lot of inspectors wanting that. As of right now, though, it wouldn't be in the base template. There's no existing tag for it for that type of detection. But yeah, definitely a great idea and something we can go back to the drawing board with as well.
And I've had a little bit of a conversation with our development team on that, and I think, and I stand to be corrected here, but I think if we do a fully customized database for a user, we can make that work. And if I understood the question correctly, you want to put the fact that the foundation is crumbling and falling down the ravine lot, you want to make that jump to people's attention with some kind of red or alarming color. Yeah, I think the short answer is we can do that. Going to take a little bit of design on the front end, but the possibility is there.
Thanks for the answer, you two. Appreciate that. Now, another question from Jim came in about putting two images side by side. So, obviously in the classic style, we can have multiple images, and as we assign more than one image, it goes side by side, filling out the page. Is the same thing here available? Can we put two photos side by side? Could we put a photo and an illustration side by side? What are the capabilities or limitations, if you will, about manipulating photos?
Yes, definitely photos side by side is possible. Just my demo was very simple, which is why I did not have that. But yeah, it's similar to the classic PDF in that sense. So where you can have two photos side by side, the illustration and photos side by side, you can probably do that as well. But the limitation there is, what if you have, because it does two photos max per row. So if you have an illustration and then a photo beside it, and then say if you have two photos up, that third photo would get cut off of the page. So that would be the only downside to it. But again, in a future update, might be possible. But as of right now, it works similar to the classic PDF in that sense.
Gotcha. So design choice, it's a possibility, but may not look the best.
Right.
Okay. Now, I do apologize if I mispronounce your name, but so I'm trying my best here. Ricarte asked, am I able to keep the tabs across the top versus a table of contents? Great question. It's actually one that has been asked several times here. This is the first time it's been asked for the session. And again, I apologize if I mispronounced your name.
Well, thanks, Ricarte. I know we've spoken recently. Again, the tabs at the top, it is technically possible, but would require a more complex base template. So again, it is also an alternative to the classic PDF style. So if you really love the table of contents, the tabs along the top of the screen, you'd probably want to stick with a classic PDF.
As a follow-up to that, and this may be one more for Alan, is there any thought about creating a new theme which closely mimics the classic style to the best of its ability, so people that are fans of Horizon Classic, as we've decided to call it, could still adopt that while having the ability to make certain changes like we've seen here with Report Designer, even if it's not the full classic style? Is that something perhaps earmarked for the future?
Already in the works.
Perfect. So for people that are worried that they're not going to have the same capability with Horizon Classic, we are developing that. It's a little bit more complex, so it is something, as Alan said, is in the works, but you will have privy to that, just like everything else, as soon as it's launched. So I'm just sorting through a few questions here because a lot of them are related to the tabs across the top and the relation of how it's going to be. So another question came in from one of our audience members, named Jason, asking about being able to edit the invoice. So are we going to be able to do anything there? Is it just drawing from the actual work order still, or can we tweak things on the Report Designer side of it?
You can absolutely tweak things, for sure. It's the magic of all this applies right across the board, so for sure.
So we've got a couple people that are really advocating for a future edition of wet form. Seems to be very popular, and we mentioned that a little bit ago. So another thing that we'll probably earmark for future development, but a number of people have voiced their passion or interest in having wet form. So just making that aware. Now, folks, Raphael has asked about ISO/pages development. Is there anything that perhaps is forthcoming to help with our Apple users and or the Pages version of Word?
No, that's definitely a good question. I myself am a Mac user at home. I have a MacBook Pro, so I actually like the Mac platform. I would say that it might be possible, but the bulk of, or the majority of the testing was done in Microsoft Word for PC. I have tested it on Microsoft Word for Mac, and it seems to work very well. Pages, though, isn't built on the exact same architecture as Microsoft Word. So there's certain things that are required for Report Design to work, primarily regarding using a table cell structure to contain all that content. Like, as you may have seen in my abstract document, you're putting things in different table cells. It does not work the exact same way in Pages, unfortunately. So, the good thing is Microsoft Word for Mac seems to work very well, at least in my testing. So, and the good thing is it's not that expensive. So it's one of those things that I would definitely recommend to consider. You can even do a free demo of it, like through the Apple App Store. So if you want to try it and you're not quite sure yet, I would definitely recommend that approach.
Perfect. Another question came in. Gabrielle has asked a question about the linking. So just want to reinforce that although right now the tabs do not exist in the new style, the Report Designer formatting, but all the other linking, so links to more articles and information, the conditions that are linked to, everything of that nature is still inherently available. It's already built into it. So none of that has changed. The only difference at this point is literally the ability to have tabs or a table of contents, and that's just between Classic and Report Designer. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Now, with regard to forms like the MPMA 33 form, Joe has asked, will we be able to affix a signature? How are we going to be able to do that? Is that something that's still in development, or how are they going to accommodate the signature of the client?
Well, as to my knowledge, it would be best to use like a tablet for that kind of thing. So like a Surface Pro, because clients can sign directly on it. The other alternative is to take a photo of that signature and then upload or insert it as an image onto the form and just resize a little bit. So there's more than one way to handle it, but for state-specific forms that do require that kind of thing, a client signature in particular, then yeah, those would be the two best approaches.
And just to clarify, if you want an inspector's signature on any document, that's just a picture that you can preset and put into your system at the base template level. So don't need to fuss about that one at all.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. Let me stop here. Now, with regard to a question here we have from Leighton, who's asking about resizing photos and illustrations. We sort of touched on this earlier. It's in relation to Apple products. So just want to reinforce that. Correct, gentlemen. Right now, we're not able to use ISO-based products to do the editing. It has to be on Microsoft Word in a Windows-based environment. Is that correct?
Not necessarily the part about the Windows-based environment, because if you have Microsoft Word on a Mac, it seems to work very well.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
it's
So
not
just
a hard
requirement.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So no matter what, it just needs Word. Doesn't matter if it's PC or Apple. You just need the requirement of having Word.
Correct. Yes. Or highly recommended, at least.
Excellent. Hey, no, perfect. Appreciate that. Now, Laurel had a question about showing how the page numbers get updated. So I believe this is in relation to the table of contents, and you were mentioning that after you adjust certain things, you'd want to go back in and before uploading, just simply refresh the table of contents so the page numbers are reflective of each system. Would you be so kind as to maybe re-demo that for us? Or?
Sure. And again, my apologies, everyone. I had intended to show a demo. I was going a bit quick, and I skipped over that part. But definitely, I can go over that. So I'm just going to reopen my document here prior to converting it into a PDF. So all I have to do is go back to my table of contents and see to make sure it's the right document. Should be. It's got actually scroll down lower in the template. Yeah, it's the right document. So I'm just going to go back to the table of contents, click Update Table, and click Update Page Numbers Only, so that it's not abstract anymore. It reflects 44 pages. And if I go down, and sorry, don't mind the highlighting. So I go down here. See if I, sorry, my mouse is a bit finicky. 44 pages to be exact. So yeah, definitely it is possible. So it'll reflect the correct page number. You just got to click one extra step.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the answer there. Question came in from Jaden, who asked about editing the base template. Does it require knowledge of coding or HTML?
No, it does not. Absolutely not. We do give you in the documentation all the base template tags that we have available. So, and again, I'm pretty sure the intention here is that we're going to help you set up these base templates so you don't have to dig through any of the code. So as of early as next Thursday, I believe, I'll be available for consultation sessions on base template setup. It's just I do have to take a few days off, unfortunately, but I will be back in the office next week.
Perfect. Thank you for the answer on that. Anton has asked a question about how to separate out, or if it's possible, ancillaries, what we currently call them, but now we've mentioned about developing essentially forms like WinMit, 4Point, and such. They are typically tied to the end of a standard report, unless you're just doing the ancillary by itself. But could these be standalone reports that you could generate?
Absolutely. You don't need to attach them to your base template. They can be standalone. And I know a lot of these reports get sent off individually rather than attached to a home inspection report. So you can have it your way.
Fantastic. So we can generate it. That also means, my assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, Ariel, that you could potentially design your WinMit or 4Point form to have a different title page, slogan, whatever you may want to separate it out and make it look maybe distinguished from a typical home inspection.
That's correct. You know, and I guess the only thing I would say there is, as long as your state allows you to do that, then sure. Because some requirements are very stringent, but if not, hey, you can do pretty much whatever you want.
Perfect. So for anything that's not regulated by their state or province, they have a little bit of freedom. We can certainly make it look a little bit nicer than a plain old form. Okay, so another question from Ricarte coming through about the classic view. And in this case, it's sort of referring back to the ability to create those page breaks. So just to reinforce, folks, as of right now, Horizon Classic is not editable in the same fashion as Report Designer. We are in the process of developing a theme that will be very much similar. It won't be 100% identical, but probably 95 plus in terms of its interaction and functionality. So stay tuned. We promise to have that available, hopefully in the coming weeks for you to utilize. But as of right now, you are limited to either Classic or Report Designer, and there's no intermixing the two. Anything you want to elaborate on that, Ariel or Alan, by chance?
That works for me.
All right. And a question came through from JK. How do you get the MPMA form on your account? Well, best bet is to set up a session with Ariel or myself to just ask general questions, more specifically Ariel if you want to customize things. But you can also reach out to us during our technical support hours, and we'd be glad to walk you through that if you need. Want to touch on that a little further, Ariel?
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to, I was all supposed to go over this in the demo, but for timing, I didn't actually get to do it. But now that we're in the Q&A part, I'll just go over a quick one. So I still do have NPMA 33 on my dashboard here. So if I go into the report, and for this demo, I'm just going to click preview to do it really quick. If I click the WDAO style, it's going to generate that, and it's going to take my report data. Here's the WDO tab. And as you can see, I've inserted all of the necessary data in there. Again, it's just a demo as well, so it's not the exact same thing. Or it doesn't reflect real data. I just selected everything. But if I click on it, it's going to map to the state-specific field. So as you can see, it's pulled in data dynamically from the work order, as well as on the buttons I clicked. And it's a little bit tiny there, but you do see that it's checkmark boxes corresponding to what I did on the Horizon input side. So it's filled out a bunch of the stuff there.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Ariel. Appreciate the demo on there. Now, Jim asked a question going back to the editing capabilities. Can you just drag around a photo inside of the, the Report Designer Word document? Click the side of it, shrink it up, move it along. Can you do that with photos, logos, and things?
No, that's definitely a good question. You can easily resize the handles of the photo if you want to make it a bit smaller. We do also have aligning options, which I did not get to touch on, for timing purposes, really. But you could do center align, you could do left align, you could do right align. So there's a lot of different options. I stuck with the center align because that's pretty similar to what it has for Horizon now in the classic PDF. But as to moving around freeform, that's just more of a limitation of Microsoft Word. But you can do it with like shapes and things like logos and stuff like that.
Perfect. And Mark has asked a question about, as of right now, are there any changes to Classic? Is there anything that's changed to Horizon Classic, or are all these developments simply with Report Designer in the new format? Nothing's changed, correct, in Horizon Classic? Like tabs, linking, nothing has actually changed.
That's correct. We haven't changed anything inside of the classic PDF rendering engine. It does it exactly the same. So in order to accommodate all this, that's why we had to change the report publishing process a little bit, because we wanted to give that ability to pull it off of the production line, mainly the download and upload buttons. And then also you have to click publish PDF after you generate it in order to send it. So it's very small changes, but for the classic PDF, we didn't actually change anything in there.
Yeah, we didn't want to disturb anybody who's perfectly happy with the way they work in Horizon now. So yeah, Horizon Classic PDF, same as it was the first day out of the box.
Thank you, guys. Tom has 2 questions here. First one is, what version of Word do you need? And the second one to that is sort of relation to editing. Can we add dimensions to illustrations?
Well, to answer the first question, most of the testing has been done on Office 365. It's worked in prior versions of that as well. I tested as early as Microsoft Word 2011, I believe, and so that seemed to work well. And my apologies there, I'm not quite sure I understand the second question.
On dimensions so if you want to have an illustration and you want to add dimensions, was that the question, Brian?
Correct, yes, sir.
And I think, if I understand correctly, those can be added as notes, but again, we might want to have a bit of a discussion on that, so maybe a follow-up discussion on the question. If I understand it correctly, the answer is yes, though.
Perfect, Tom. If you need any further clarity on that or like to explain the question a little bit more for me, I'd be glad to re-ask that to Alan and Ariel. But if that did answer it, great. Question came through from Chuck with regard to action list. Does this change the format of it at all? Does Report Designer impact action list? Can you use Report Designer and still have an action list go out? Please let me know what if anything, changes for action list.
Action list works exactly the same way. The output of action list looks the same as it always has. Remember, it's not a home inspection report. You do not want it to look like your home inspection report. This is going to be produced by a buyer or a buyer's agent and is going to be appended to an agreement of purchase and sale. So action list still works great and does what it's supposed to do. I did get somebody slip me a piece of paper that said that their understanding is that, in fact, Report Designer will work on Word versions going back all the way to 2003. So we didn't test it on that, but I have some outside information that goes back that far. Now, if you're running Word 2003, you might want to get into the 21st century, but I think it works.
Great, I appreciate that. Another question came through from Brad with regard to controlling the order of photos. So will we have the ability to control the order of photos in Report Designer?
At this time, I would say no. I do know what the question is. He wants to be able to resort them, and you'd be deleting photos, and then once you restore it, it's not going to appear in the right ordering. So I have tested it. So it wasn't primarily built for that. Again, may change in the future, but as of right now, it is very similar to the classic PDF in that regard.
Perfect. And Michael had a question with regard to these state-specific forms. He himself is not in Florida, but will everyone have access to these different unique forms, even if they're not in a specific state or province by chance?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So yeah, you'll have full access to everything that we create, and you can modify it as you see fit. So another Tom has asked a question about a previously completed report. Could he take that report and convert it into a new template style? So old reports, can they be repurposed and regenerated utilizing Report Designer?
Yes, definitely. I've done that in testing a ton of times. And so if you just want to look at an old report and see how it looks with a Report Designer theme, that's definitely possible. That's actually something we would recommend. And so you can easily do that, and at least that way you can see how it looks to decide if it's right for you.
Perfect. So folks, I'm just going to interrupt for a second as we are nearing the 8 o'clock mark. We've gone through almost about half an hour of Q&A. We still have quite a bit of questions coming in. There's been a lot of interest in this, and I don't want to discredit anyone and not be able to ask their questions. So we're going to go through about 10 more questions, and then we are going to have to end at that point in time. Any questions that are not addressed at the end of our session, they have been stored. What we're planning to do is update the replay with those questions and the answers to them, so that anyone that leaves the session and wants to watch the replay, they can jump to the Q&A period, they can see what questions were asked, and they can simply watch through the remaining portion. That way, if they don't have enough time tonight, they can still refresh their memory and learn what we haven't covered tonight. So I'm going to go over the next 10 questions. I do apologize if yours is not in that order. I'm going in sequential order. I'll do my best to address them. And again, anything that's not addressed tonight will be contained in the replay video, which will be available either tomorrow and or Monday. So next question that we have is, can photos be edited in Word like Classic by adding circles, arrows, and such? Or should the editing still be done back at the report writing screen? What sort of further editing capabilities does Word offer us for photographs? Ariel?
I would say to stick to the regular way of doing it, which is when you click on a photo, you can do things like add a circle or an arrow. I don't really see any advantage to doing it in the Word one, just because it won't translate back into Horizon. That is the main reason why.
Gotcha.
So if you go back and say generate a V2, it's not going to respect that editing you did on the Word photo.
Gotcha. So best practice is continue to edit the photos at report writing and allow it to generate through, because if you do make changes afterward, those edits won't be reflected in future generated versions.
Correct. Yes, if any.
Perfect. And Guy has asked a question, how will we be notified of new forms once they're released?
I would say our monthly newsletter would be the probable forum for that.
Excellent. Thank you kindly. Another question from Ken. What is your feeling about uploading custom illustrations? So can they be uploaded, and should it be done, or not can they, but rather would you suggest they get uploaded at the report writing screen as an image, or should they be embedded in the Word template?
I would say if they're custom illustrations or things from external illustration libraries, I would say it's better to put them in the Word doc. No, they won't translate back into Horizon, but I think the intention there is it would only be for a couple of illustrations. If you're, say, adding 20 to 30 illustrations at the end of your report, it would probably take a long time anyway. So if there's a few key illustrations that you want, limit that to the report document, put it in there. That way it's at full size and a lot more legible. Or, again, we have a smaller size too, so at least that way you can mix and match a bit more. And again, the end goal being that you can control your page breaks better.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Joseph asked a question about reference numbers be added to this corresponding home reference book. So I'm assuming like you have different articles in the home reference book. Could you, in essence, go and take some of those articles and make a reference point in different systems to touch on them? Maybe like a MyItem or something of that nature?
That one I may have to answer a bit later because unfortunately I don't quite understand it. I can definitely reach out and
Perfect. So Joseph, I'll let you know we're going to address that question after the session for some greater clarity. So we'll touch on that in just a bit. Philip asked a question about any plans to customize the email when sending the report from Horizon.
You can send the report from Horizon, which has always been and will continue to be a plain text email. But if you use Horizon Marketer, you can send your reports with customized HTML emails. The answer is a little bit longer than that, but the short answer is yes, but you don't use the report publishing email tool.
Thank you. And Gabriel asked a question again about Mac. You do have to have the ability to use Word on Mac in order to save this. Would programs like OpenOffice work, or is Microsoft Word the only recommended and suitable program?
Let's keep it to Microsoft Word for now. That's all we've tested on, and I don't want to get outside the box in the first week.
Gotcha. Okay, so as of right now, Microsoft Word only for the conversion. All right, folks, I see another question about a mold assessment form. Do we have a mold assessment form currently, or is it going to be planned for the future?
Something that's definitely possible. If it's a state mandated form, we would probably try and focus on those first rather than personal forms, because that way it'll have broad appeal to more users. So that is something we can definitely build, but I would need a little bit more specifics on what state mandated forms are for that.
And to cap things off, there are two last questions today. First is, how do I choose the report design? So how do you get to choose which design you're going to be using when you publish?
Yep, so there's a list. I'm just in the WDO test right now, but if you just want, from the report publishing phase is where you would actually do that. So you just click on the menu here, and say if you even have just a base template for Ice Blue, but then for an agent you want to brand it a bit more, you can change it to like Ice Red or something. Or there's a lot of different options you can do there by simple variations.
Perfect. So report publishing, you have a list of different templates or themes that you have set up that you could choose from, and you simply select the one that you'd like the report to be outputted like, correct?
That's right. So you're not limited to one, you can have multiple.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And last question for tonight, folks. And again, anything that was not addressed, I have stored, and I assure you will be included in the replay, is can you select and reuse one photo in multiple areas? So you've got multiple defects in a photo, and perhaps you'd like to repurpose that photo 2 or more times. Can you simply select it multiple times, or do we have to upload it like we do with Classic a second time?
Technically, it's possible to do that. It's a copy paste really, but it's mainly about translating back into Horizon where it might not work out so well. So it's possible. We'd recommend to do it the normal way, where you can duplicate the photo or take the same of the other one.
All right. Perfect.
But yeah, and I would say the short answer is yes on that. And Ariel's alluded a few times to the fact that if you take something off the production line and you mess with it, when you put it back up into production, the Horizon database on the input side doesn't know about that happening. And that's absolutely true. But I would say in the vast majority of cases, that's not a big drawback and not a huge issue. So cutting and pasting a photo a second time is a question we get a lot. If you want to do it, absolutely. The Horizon database won't remember if you do an updated version of that. But quite frankly, I think the pros probably outweigh the cons on that one. And it opens a door that hasn't been open to you before.
Perfect. Well, gentlemen, I really want to appreciate your time. And for everyone still in attendance, we've got a number of people still listening in. Thank you so much for your participation and attendance this evening. It really means a lot to all of us here that you've taken your time out of your day, or in this case, evening, to sit and learn about Report Designer, participate by asking questions, and see how Horizon is evolving to hopefully meet all of your needs and expectations. We are going to be sending out an email for everyone in attendance with a link to a replay that you can watch with additional questions that we may not have been answered tonight. You'll also have access to a form where you can request a time to sit down with Ariel and go over Report Designer. You'll also have access to our help articles. And while Ariel's away, if there's anything I can do, everyone knows that I'm available to help as well. So we've got plenty of support here for you. And thank you again for coming tonight. Please stay tuned. We'll have another webinar next month about something else. And anything that you have as far as feedback, questions that you think of after the session, you can always reply to the email, give us a call, or access us on Facebook, and we'll be glad to chat through there. So folks, I am going to be ending the session for everyone still in attendance. I'm going to let Ariel and Alan say their goodbyes, and then we're going to log off for the evening. Stay safe, stay warm, especially if you're in Ontario, and for folks in the South, enjoy the sun.
All right, thanks so much, Brian. I appreciate your time tonight for helping us set up this webinar. Just want to say, everyone, it's been a long time building this project, so I'm really excited. There's a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, and thank you all for attending. I'm going to let Alan close it off.
Well, thanks, folks, and I want to say great job to the team all the way from concept right to this webinar, and thank you, folks, for sticking with us, and have a great night, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right,
thanks,
folks,
guys.
hanging out.